Just been thinking a lot about mixed culture and neurodiverse and the interplay between the two of them. And this partly stems from my own experiences growing up, but also observing in various different expat cultures and whilst living in London, having a lot of friends from mixed culture families, coming into contact with a lot of mixed culture children. And it's made me, I've thought about this a lot in terms of when partners attract each other across cultures, when they have an element of neurodiversity in their personalities. And, you know, this is something I've thought about since I became aware that my family of origin contained threads of neurodiversity, which is that when you're considered a little bit strange in your own culture, it's a lot easier to find a partner in a different culture because your differences and your eccentricities are assumed to be cultural. Oh, it's just a British man. Oh, it's just a Croatian woman. Or whatever culture it is, rather than you being odd as an individual. And the judgment of people as a cultural difference, I think, from my own observations, seems to be less harsh than the judgment of an individual as just being a bit strange on, you know, in their own right. And so when people are a little bit different, they're more accepted outside of their own culture. And so I've started wondering about whether the incidence of neurodiversity is higher in mixed culture families as opposed to monoculture families. And again, you know, in terms of immigrants or those that choose to leave their home country, not where it's forced, because that's different, but those who choose to leave their home country to go and seek a life in a new country. I'm curious as to whether the incidence of neurodiversity is higher in those populations too, because I'm wondering for how many people it is triggered by this idea that they don't quite fit in their home country, but they're not quite sure why. And so they leave in search of another country where they feel they may fit better. So this has been mulling around my brain for initially quite some years, but more so since I've come here. I've had quite a few triggers in terms of, you know, going for coffee or meeting up at people's houses and just watching how people interact and hearing comments like, oh, my mother's just like that because she's Croatian. And I'm sitting there watching thinking, that's not just because she's Croatian. That's because she's somewhere in the autism spectrum or she's got ADHD traits. And it makes me realise how many of my own assumptions growing up, you know, that I made because we're a mixed culture, rather than looking deeper and thinking, is there anything beyond this? So it also brings to mind things to do with assessment, because obviously when you're making assessments across culture, you need to be aware of the cultural differences as well as the individual differences. And then it becomes a lot more complex. And I've already talked on some of, you know, a couple of these videos about the challenges of assessing women, because a lot of the assessment tools are aimed at assessing boys and men. So what if you're a mixed culture woman with living with neurodiversity? How on earth are you going to get yourself assessed then? But this is another area that I've been thinking about, because I've been thinking much more about the systemic context with neurodiversity and neurodiversity diagnoses. You know, what happens with a family that's wholly neurodiverse? What does that look like? You know, you have multiple meltdowns from different sides. You have a child who wants peace and another that can't tolerate peace. You have a child that needs bright lights and noise and another that hates them. You have one that thrives in routine and others that can't bear routine. I mean, it's complex. It makes for a much more complex living situation. But as I've said before, again, in some of my videos about multiculturalism, it enriches your life to have these complexities, because it forces you to look deeper, to understand yourself more in order to find that happy life that you seek. Anyway, I will be back another time. I'm currently getting distracted. I'm going to show you, actually, there's a beautiful tree in front of me covered in butterflies and bumblebees. So I'm just going to turn this round and show you. It's so pretty. There, can you see that? It's a bougainvillea. There's the garden. But it is absolutely delightful. And you can probably hear the crickets behind me. It's a lovely start to the day. Little on the warm side, but it's beautiful. So I hope you all have a good week, and I'll check back soon. And as I've said before, If you enjoy any of my videos, please do share, because my focus is to try to raise awareness of issues relating to identity in terms of multiculturalism and neurodiversity. And if this helps you, it might help another. So take care. I'll be back soon.